introducing our segment together. And I'm really sorry I can't be with everybody today at the Leadership Summit. I am out of town, as Joan said, and when we talked about how to do this together, this seemed to be the next best option for us. So hopefully this works for everybody, and I'm just there with you in spirit, and I really mean that, as you're going through this day and this morning together. So I want to start just by asking everybody, how many of you in the roundtable discussions that you just finished up, how many of you were awkward or uneasy when that question came up about talking about your relationship with Jesus Christ? I want you to be honest. How many of you were just uneasy about doing that? And how many tables was there this awkward silence until one of you brave souls stepped up and began to talk about your relationship with Christ? How many of us have been taught over the years that our faith was a private matter, or that we just pass the faith on by how we live it? And I've heard this quote so many times attributed to St. Francis of Assisi that said, "Preach the gospel at all times, and when necessary, use words." We've all heard that, haven't we? Well, the fact is that it's very probable that St. Francis never said that. Nobody can find it in any of his existing works of writing. And yet we hear it quoted over and over again. Now, in the day when the culture and our Catholic faith were more in tune with one another, we could get away with that sort of answer. We just live our faith and let it speak for us. Because our culture supported what we believed. At least it tolerated it. If it didn't support it, at least allowed us to have that faith and to live it out. And it supported our freedom to do that. And my brothers and sisters, today, in the last 50 years, things have changed dramatically. And now we have to step beyond being cultural Catholics, because the culture now opposes much of what we hold dear. So when you hear that, preach the gospel at all times and when necessary use words, today that can be a cop-out answer for us. It lets us off the hook because we don't have to be able to talk to people about who Jesus Christ is and what he means to us and who he is for us. We don't have to talk about it. We can use this answer to give us the easy way out. Well, we're just going to live, we're going to be good people, and we're not going to have to share our relationship with words. But that's not what it means to be a disciple. And we're all called to be disciples. All of us are called. Everybody in this room today is called to be a disciple. Now, we might be a disciple in different ways, and we'll talk about that. But we're all called to be disciples. Jesus gave as his last command in Matthew 28, verse 19, "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit." And that was, he could have said anything. That was the last words out of his mouth before he ascended into heaven. He could have said anything he wanted to his apostles. But that was the mission he left with them as the last thing out of his mouth. And so it becomes our mission because we are the church. And of course, the way we live should exemplify or demonstrate our understanding of Jesus' gospel, the good news. Yes, our life should do that. But if it was ever sufficient to just live that good life and let it speak for ourselves, we're no longer in that situation. We have people leaving the church in droves. For every one person that comes through our RCIA process, it's estimated at least 4 people are walking out the back door. Because the culture is calling for a different gospel than we are. So no longer can we rest back on that, only use words when necessary. We have to use words. Discipleship calls us to share our relationship with Jesus Christ and with others in real and tangible ways. Yes, with our words as well as how we live. But all this talk of having a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, isn't that just what Protestants do? I mean, I've heard that a lot. Well, my answer is, oh really? The fact is that long before the Protestants ever existed, much less focused on this aspect of faith, all you have to do, it's a Catholic thing. It is a Catholic element of our faith that we have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. All you have to do is read the lives of the saints. If you read the lives of the saints, they're just totally immersed in the person of Jesus. They're just head over heels in love with him. And they speak in these very intimate terms about Jesus and how they live with him every day. Very natural ways that they speak. But there's no mistake that they have that personal connection with God. And if you think that's just for the saints, then you haven't been listening to our last three popes. I have a document here, and I'm just going to read you some quotes here from, I'll start with Saint Pope John Paul II. Conversion means accepting by a personal decision the savoring sovereignty of Christ and becoming his disciple. The definitive aim of catechesis is to put people not only in touch, but in communion, in intimacy with Jesus Christ. Only he can lead us to the love of the Father in the Spirit and make us share in the life of the Holy Trinity. That's St. Pope John Paul II. Here's Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI. Being Christian is not the result of an ethical choice or a lofty idea, but it's an encounter with an event, a person, which gives life a new horizon and a decisive direction. And here's another reflection that Pope Benedict gave on catechesis on St. Bernard, St. Bernard of Clairvaux. For Bernard, in fact, true knowledge of God consisted in a personal, profound experience of Jesus Christ and of his love. And dear brothers and sisters, this is true for every Christian. Faith is first and foremost a personal, intimate encounter with Jesus. It is having an experience of closeness, his friendship, and his love. And here's another quote from Benedict. Christianity, it's not an intellectual system, a collection of dogmas or moralism. Christianity is an encounter, a love story. It is an event. And finally, from Pope Francis, let the risen Jesus enter your life. Welcome him as a friend with trust. He is life. If up till now you have kept him at a distance, step forward. He will receive you with open arms. And there's this quote also from Pope Francis. Jesus Christ loves you. He gave his life to save you. And now he lives forever to be by your side, to enlighten, strengthen, and heal you. And finally, also from Pope Francis, the joy of the gospel fills the hearts and lives of all those who encounter Jesus. Those who accept his offer of salvation are set free from sin, sorrow, inner emptiness, and loneliness. With Christ, joy is constantly born anew. So my brothers and sisters, clearly our popes believe that we're all called to have this personal relationship with Christ. This document I'm going to make available to you. Joan can hand that out after the presentation here. So you can have that for a reference. So a disciple, let's talk about what it means to be a disciple. A disciple is someone that I will say, I call it the Matthew 4:18 through 20 moment in their life. Matthew chapter 4, 18 to 20, and it goes like this. As he was walking by the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, who was called Peter, and his brother Andrew, casting a net into the sea. They were fishermen. He said to them, "Come after me, and I will make you fishers of men." At once, they left their nets and followed him. A disciple is one who has come to this place in their life where he or she accepts Jesus as the Lord of their life. They drop their own nets, whatever their occupation, whatever their life is, they drop their nets. And then they drop their own agendas, their own plans, and they passionately seek to follow Jesus and to do the will of the Father. And that's what Jesus always sought to do, the will of the Father. So a disciple comes to a full awareness that God is the only one who can satisfy the deepest yearnings of the human heart. And it's only through a complete surrender to Jesus that we'll be able to experience the fullness of life as God has planned it. That's the only way that that full life can ever be realized, is with that surrender to the Lord's will in our lives. So you see, we can no longer just be satisfied with being cultural Catholics, just being good, and then hoping someone will figure out what's behind our goodness. We have to be able to talk to people about this, about who Jesus is, and the depth and the meaning of who he is in our life, and the joy that he brings to our lives. And by virtue of our baptism, and then sealed in the sacrament of confirmation, we're called to mission. We're called to become disciples of Jesus, learning at the feet of our Master. First, we fall in love with him. We fall in love with Jesus, growing in faith and trust until we reach a point where we drop our nets as the apostles did. We drop whatever has been the center of our lives to follow him. It's the time we decide that we're all in. We're all in. And we repeat the words that Peter said, "Lord, to whom would we go if not you? For you have the words of everlasting life." So we follow Jesus so that he can make us fishers of men and women as his disciples. And along that path as we go, at some point, in a very natural way, we will begin to have a desire to begin to share that joy of Christ alive in our lives with other people. We can only share, my brothers and sisters, what we ourselves possess. And if we're in a deep, a vibrant, and a growing relationship with Jesus, and therefore his body, the church, then we will find we're drawn to share that joy. It will happen naturally. That excitement that we have in our own lives, we want to begin to share that with others. In our families, among our friends and co-workers, and with fellow parishioners. Disciples, again, what do we mean by disciple? Disciples are in love with Jesus, and we can't help but to share that love that wells up within us with others that we care about. Because that's what love does. It creates a desire in the disciple to share the joy that they've discovered and that they're living, that they're coming to understand in deeper and deeper ways as they grow. So you might be sitting there thinking, okay, well that's well and good, but how does this apply to me? Well, that's a great question. So let's get to the heart of the matter. We can't just throw the word disciple around, describing what we currently do, and then calling ourselves disciples, simply because we come to Mass on Sunday. Yeah, we participate in a ministry or two at the parish or in the school, or maybe we even take a rotation or two on the parish pastoral council. but that does not make us disciples. A disciple, first and foremost, seeks to know and love the one whom they follow. In this case, Jesus. They want to spend time getting to know what makes him tick, how they see the world. How does Jesus see the world? How did Jesus live when he was in the world? How did he make decisions? How did he treat others that he came in contact with? This is what a disciple does. He seeks to understand and to grow in the spirit that their teacher has. That's Jesus. So I want to ask you just a couple questions. How much time each day do you spend talking with Jesus? Either in prayer, adoration, or reflecting on Scripture? How much time each day? How much time do you spend watching TV or on the internet? How much time do you spend with your hobbies? And I'm not asking these questions just to make people feel guilty. I really want you to take a look at where your priorities are in life. Because it's obvious, we spend time on the things that we have a passion for. We spend time on the things that we care about. That's where we put our time. So if we say that we're disciples and that Jesus is the Lord of our lives, our time ought to start reflecting that. Maybe not all at once, but over time. Our lives should reflect where our time is spent on us becoming disciples. So is Jesus the Lord of your life? And that's the ultimate question. It really is the ultimate question. Is Jesus Lord of your life? Do you know him? I don't just mean know about him. Do you know him? Are you willing to set aside your own agendas, your own plans for what life had in store? Are you ready to lay those aside, to drop those nets so that you can turn toward Jesus and follow him so that he can make you a fisher of men and women? Where are you on the road of answering that question? Saints, they're not usually made in a day. They really aren't. For most of us, most of the saints, it's a process. In many cases, a lifelong process. But in every saint's life, there was a day when they had that Matthew 4:18 experience. It was that moment when they realized that they had to turn and drop their own nets to follow Jesus, to allow them to become fishers of men and women, because that's what a disciple does. And when we grow in this relationship with Jesus over time, he begins to mold us and shape us. He reveals to us our gifts and our charisms that we've been blessed with, and our uniqueness as individuals. He begins to reveal our place in his plans and how we, in our uniqueness, can use those gifts and those charisms for building up his kingdom. That's what he gives us as his disciples. So today, and even after today, this is a question you can continue to reflect on and ask yourself. Is Jesus the Lord of your life? Today. And then tomorrow, when you look in that mirror the first time, or even before you get out of bed, ask yourself that question. Is Jesus going to be the Lord of my life today? Am I going to let him show me where he wants me in his plan today? And as you grow in your relationship with Jesus and ask him to be Lord of your life, you will begin to experience a desire to share Jesus with others. And I know some of you here today, you already have this desire, and you're already living this out. You are sharing your life in Christ with others. Here's another question that I want to give you so that it'll help you understand where you are on this road of what it means to become a disciple of Jesus. Where are you on the road? And that question is, who are the one or two people that you are discipling right now? Let me say it a different way so that my meaning is clear. Name me one or two people who you begin your day praying for. The one or two people that you're actively building bridges of trust so that they will be open to sharing with you discussions about the deeper things in life. Who are those one or two people who you are investing your time in, a significant portion of your time and energy, witnessing by word and example of what it means to live with Jesus as the Lord of your life? Who are those one or two people that you're doing all of that for? That's what Jesus did. Let's look at Jesus for just a minute. He preached and taught thousands. He discipled 12 who became his apostles. But even within that group, there were 3 apostles that he deeply discipled. He spent time with them, apart even from the other 8, 9. But he discipled those 3. He invested, he poured his life into them so that they would come to know his ways and his understanding of the Father. They would come to know the Father by how Jesus taught them. And so teachers pour out their lives into their disciples. They invest their time in them. They continue to build those bridges of trust that open hearts to hear the invitation to encounter Jesus Christ. And this is our model and why we are asking these questions today. So the honest truth is, if you can't name those one or two people whom you are discipling, then you still have work to do. You still have room to grow. We all do. I mean, it is a journey, as I said before. But you haven't yet sort of fully dropped those nets in order to follow Jesus and then let him show you how to become fishers of men and women. That's what this means. That's what disciples do, and it's what it means to become an intentional disciple. We seek to deepen our own surrender into the mind and heart of Jesus. We gain new insights and an awareness of who we are, the gifts and charisms and talents that we've been given, that we've been blessed with, so that we can serve him in his building of his kingdom. And then as we grow in that awareness and grow in that relationship with Christ, there's something that naturally happens. We experience this joy and this desire to want to share it with others. We want to share this great experience that we have with others, this life, and this relationship we have with other people. And so we find those one or two people that we can invest in. And this is how discipleship is going to happen in our parish. It's not going to happen because we have great programs or new initiatives and we're going to have people come to meetings. All of that can be helpful, but really we disciple others into relationship with Christ one or two at a time. One or two at a time. And that's why we have families, so that we can do that in our families. One or two at a time as they grow and then the new ones come in. But it's about this sort of person-to-person relationship and sharing that out of this natural welling up within us that is the joy that Christ gives us when we are in relationship with him. And this is the mission of the church. And this is how the mission ties. We go make disciples of all nations, but it begins right here in this parish with you and me as disciples. And we make disciples of all nations by making disciples of our brothers and sisters who are out there searching, looking for the deepest answers in life. And now when we discover we have them, sharing them, pouring ourselves out into their lives, building those bridges of trust so that they begin to open up and be open so that we can share our relationship with Christ when it's time to do that. That's what we need to do as disciples. That's what disciples do. And I hope that after today's session that you'll reflect long and hard about this understanding of discipleship. Because if we don't get this part right as individuals, as disciples of Jesus individually, then everything else you're going to talk about today won't make a lot of sense, because that's what it's based on. It's based on this understanding of discipling people, bringing them into, inviting them into an encounter with the living God that we know loves us and whom we love. And when we do that, we're going to make a difference in people's lives, the lives of this parish, and the lives of the people in our community. And so at this point, I'd like to turn things back over to Joan to finish up. Joan, I think you're over there somewhere, so if you don't mind, come on up. And at this time, I just want to thank everybody for your attention. And please trust that my prayers will be with you as you finish this session. And please pray for my safe return later tomorrow. And I appreciate your time and what we're all about here. This is important stuff. And I'm ready to walk this journey with you, as I know Father Paul and Father Gino and the rest of the staff and the parish council. We just have to go do this. This is what we're called to do. Thank you very much. God bless.